I found I was really having to work. It was an effort, it was a conscious effort to get to that 10. And the 8 was sitting there for the most part unused. So I switched them. I put the drum I used more often in the location which was easier to get to. And that's the sum total of it. Greetings, everyone. Jim Walker here. Just a quick video today. I'm not even going to bother getting on camera because I'm not going to be on here long enough to make a big deal out of this. Just want to talk briefly about this drum set that I built. I believe it was in 2008. The snare drum was a couple of years before that, but the tom-toms and the bass drum, that kit came into being again maybe 2007, but I'm pretty sure it was 2008. I had already built myself a drum set. I've had my Ludwig kit that I've had since high school, and a year or two prior to this kit, I built myself a more conventional sized acoustic jazz kit. That one, 18-inch bass drum, 14-inch floor, 12-inch rack tom. I also built a 10-inch and an 8-inch tom to go with it. The 10-inch rarely gets used these days. The 8-inch almost never gets used, but that for a long time was my acoustic jazz kit. But I would build, when I did the do-yourself drum building thing, which I still do on rare occasions, not nowhere near as much as I used to, I would build for two reasons. One, because I needed a particular instrument. That's why I built that other drum set. I didn't have anything that was the traditional acoustic jazz sizes. I built a set of concert toms for myself for the same reason for my orchestra gigs. Built a couple of orchestral snare drums for my orchestra gigs. Again, fulfilling a need, a specific instrument that I didn't have. Other times I build just out of curiosity, and that's where this kit was. I already had the other one, the 18, 14, 12 kit, but I kept hearing about drummers using 16-inch bass drums. Two guys in particular, the great Brian Blade, and before that, Billy Higgins. I've also heard Elvin Jones mentioned as someone who would use 16-inch bass drums. And curiosity got the better of me. I took the 16-inch floor tom off my Ludwig kit, put it on its side, rigged up a bass drum pedal, played it a little bit, and enjoyed it enough and liked the sound enough that I went ahead with this project. We got a 16 by 14 bass drum, diameter times depth, 13 by 13 floor, 10 by 8 rack tom, and an 8 by 8 rack tom. When I put this together, the parts to build an 8-inch drum really just presented themselves. I bought a pile of parts from someone that had 8-inch 6-lug hoops, which you don't see that often. And at the same time, Steve Weiss was running a blowout sale, 8-inch 6-lug rims mounts. So it's like the drum gods were speaking to me. So I went ahead and I built an 8-inch drum to go with this kit. And honestly, I don't use the 8-inch drum that much. Usually when I run this, I'm running it like a 4-piece kit. Just nothing here in this slot. Maybe I put a bell or something here or a tamborim or something. But just the basic 4-piece setup for the most part. Now, when I first put these drums together, I set the toms up in the conventional order. Clockwise, smallest diameter to largest. So it was 8, 10, 13. What I noticed is this being more for jazz applications, even though this isn't tuned as tight as the 12, 14, 18 kit I've got, the smaller diameters give me a lot of that higher pitch range on their own. They're still tuned up pretty high. So by the time you get to an 8-inch tom at a higher tension, you get a pretty high-pitched drum. And it really is just more of an accent drum than anything. So I found myself playing snare drum, 10-inch tom, and 13-inch floor tom the vast majority of the time, and only rarely going to where the 8-inch tom was. And for me, maybe it's just me, but this move, going straight forward to get to a tom in this position, for me is much more comfortable than reaching across to this position. Again, maybe it's just me, but I found I was really having to work. It was an effort, it was a conscious effort to get to that 10. And the 8 was sitting there for the most part unused. So I switched them. I put the drum I used more often in the location which was easier to get to. And that's the sum total of it. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this, the reason I'm putting this video out there, when for years I was a participant on Facebook, and I've gotten away from that format, from that platform. I haven't posted anything of any significance on Facebook in 3, maybe 4 years. One reason is whenever we go to there are pages devoted to everything, but pages devoted to drums and drumming and drum sets and show your drum sets and post pictures of your drums, and I would participate in that. And whenever I'd put a picture up of this kit with all the toms, with this setup, invariably I would get someone jumping in saying the drums are in the wrong order. The smaller drum should go on the left. And I would very calmly explain what I just explained in this video. I use this drum more. I put it where it's easier to get. I don't use this drum as much. I put it in a place that's not as easy to get to. I think back to when I was in high school. This is going to sound like a non sequitur, but it actually is relevant. When I was a freshman in high school, my mother insisted that I take a typing class. And given the way that computers have taken over the world and we're dealing with the QWERTY keyboard on all our devices now, especially in terms of typing, it doesn't texting. I'm useless. I'm one of these guys, one finger. But in terms of typing on a keyboard, it was very wise of her for me to do that. So we're in the typing class, and we're at one of the early classes. We're just learning to memorize where the letters are and which fingers reach to the letter. And one of the students just got almost indignant. It's like, why don't they just put the letters in alphabetical order? And the teacher said, how many words do you know where the letters appear in alphabetical order? Which I thought was a brilliant comment. In other words, you go from here to here in that order. So why do the letters need to be in that order? That's not where that arrangement on the traditional keyboard comes from, but it's not worth getting into here. So why do the drums need to be in a straight line? That you're going to go da 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 da. That traditional roundhouse fill, great, but how many fills are you going to play that are like that? Hopefully not all of them. So this drum ends up here if it's on the kit. Most of the time it's not. Most of the time I go with the 4. Also because another reason for that is I like larger ride cymbals in the main slot. I've got 3 22-inch rides, any one of which is usually in the main slot here. This one is a 22-inch pre-serial 602. The ink is gone, but I believe it's a medium designation. I've got a 22-inch Sound Creation Dark Ride, both of those Pi-Sti, and I've got a 22-inch 1960s A Zildjian. 90-something% of the time, one of those 3 is in the main slot. So if I can get rid of this drum and bring the cymbal a little closer, all the better. Which is another reason why I tend to go with a 4-piece kit. That's how I view it with the tom on here. It's a 4-piece kit, snare, 2 toms, and the bass drum with an extra. It's like 4-piece plus 1, or with a plus 1, like you're buying tickets to an event. That this is my plus 1. And actually, this drum, I don't have enough stands for it right now. I've commandeered my wife's home office for this video. If I had another stand up, one thing that I found is I like having this drum right over here off of the floor tom. I think it's kind of a Benny Greb thing. Again, I don't need to go in a straight line, so I can have it over here. Sometimes I might have it over by the hi-hat, sometimes not at all. So if you're one of those guys who watched my pictures on YouTube, on Facebook, and couldn't quite grasp why I had the drums in this order, that's why. So hopefully seeing it in action will be enough of an answer for those who are at all curious about this. So I'll finish up and I'll play a little bit so you get to hear the sound of the drums. Nothing revolutionary about them, other than the fact that they're smaller sizes, and that's not revolutionary, it's just a little unusual. But I'll play and hear a little bit of what I got, and thanks for checking out the video. I'll see you next time.